indeed a great honor to be addressing you. And maybe at the outset, just to make the point, our story is kind of an entrepreneurial journey. I'd like to take you through it, but just I thought one thing as a general comment, and I hope it does resonate, is that entrepreneurs often think that kind of the stereotypical opportunities, times are good, there are many opportunities that present themselves, and you should focus on capital, business plans, making money. To an extent, I think the discovery story is very different. We have always believed that it's when times are difficult that profound opportunities emerge. At the same time, we believe instead of focusing just on money and profits, I think a great business focuses on purpose and focuses obsessively on product and on the value proposition. And I hope that becomes true throughout my presentation. So I'd like to tell you very briefly, there's not much time for this, a bit of our journey. If I can get this to work. I'm not starting well. Hold on one sec, I do need these slides. What about that's right at the back. Oh, let me go back. So I'm doing the talk backwards, I hope you're following. Okay, so let me just start out by saying almost to the day, our organization is 25 years old. And I am proud of the progress. You can see that our total revenue flow exceeds about 100 billion a year. We cover about 7 million people, or we're about 7 million customers in 15 countries. And so over the last 25 years, we've been building our organization, I think, very, very carefully. But I wanted to take you just through the genesis and give you a sense of what the disruption has been. And I'm pretty sure there are examples and learnings that could apply to other industries. The first thing to say is that we started out as a health insurance company, trying to figure out how to offer private health insurance in South Africa as the country went out of apartheid and into democracy. And that created considerable complexity. Too few doctors, terrible levels of disease burden, and at the same time, government regulation that correctly so is about egalitarian, equality, community rating, and a very complex environment around how you price and you manage health insurance. And I think our breakthrough was the simple idea of what we need to do is focus on making people healthier. And that was kind of the battle cry from the outset of discovery. One of the really big steps for us, and it came about kind of opportunistically, and I do think it is a story of a small group of entrepreneurs that built the company, was a simple idea of, in a sense, incentivizing people to do healthy things. And that became Vitality. We were presented with this idea of how do we work with the Virgin Active gyms, and could we in some way make the membership of these gyms available to our customers. And the simple idea of providing incentives, giving people points to do healthy things, became this idea of Vitality. And so it took us on this remarkable journey that I think has been globally disruptive around insurance. And what has happened to us, and to an extent I think fortunately, but at the same time I think we've read the environment correctly, is that what we've built is something that is very relevant to trends that are happening globally. You've heard about the technology, digital trend, of course, that affects us dramatically. At the same time, the idea of purpose, that companies should have purpose, affects us, and our whole idea of make people healthier is central to that. But the fundamental issue that we built our organization around was that the fact that the nature of risk has changed. In the past, when you built insurance products, the idea that people presented a specific health or mortality risk was ascertained at the point that they entered the policy. Our view was more and more that was more behavioral. And we're learning now that most of life risk, mortality risk, sickness risk, is about choices you make. What you eat, physical activity, do you smoke or not, are you consuming too much alcohol? It's those simple 3 or 4 choices that define 50 to 60% of your mortality risk. And so the entire world, to an extent, in insurance has changed. And so our purpose of making people healthier has become a central disruptive force in what we do. What started out, I think, 20 years ago as a kind of a soft idea has migrated into a very, very hard business model that works on a how that we call shared value. The idea of sharing value with the people that we cover. We incentivize them to do healthy things. When they do these things, they become healthier. That drives our profitability, and we share that profit with them through incentives. And so you kind of get this virtuous cycle. The disruptive model that we've created, and many of you will know our model of Vitality, but really this idea of taking people through a personal pathway. What is their vitality age? Getting them to do healthy things across a wide range of areas. They earn points, they earn a status, and then they get considerable rewards. And the entire model on the left-hand side is this idea of complicated insurance businesses in life, health, how people drive, sitting on this vitality chassis. And so we've kind of migrated the simple idea of vitality into a fairly complex shared value model. What is interesting, and I hope you find this appropriate, I'm sorry I'm becoming a bit actuarial, but just follow me here for a moment. But the simple idea of shared value in our industry has given rise to a kind of a strand of DNA that runs through everything we do. So what we're trying to do in insurance is create value. By making people healthier, we create economic value. And the question is, if you create that value, how best can you share it? And so the equation that we use is, on the bottom there, the value we create per member breaks down into a number of different components, all of them very important. We create incentives per member. For that given incentive, we get behavior change. For that behavior change, we get a change in mortality. And for that change in mortality, we provide value, and we share that through a structured way. And so we break this kind of equation down that really explains value per member into all of its components. And so what I'm trying to explain is that the disruptive force of insurance is in these silos. We've created a model that I think breaks things down into incentives, into programs, into data, and finally into product constructs that actually give people considerable value. And if you follow our company, you may know these things, but the first piece of it, kind of the incentive structure, is the vitality chassis, using behavioral economics to get people to behave differently. Look at their vitality age, earn points, get a status, get rewards. The issue of behavior change we do across virtually every aspect of wellness, from smoking cessation to nutrition to physical activity to preventive screening. The third component is the core of what we do, understanding the data. So focusing very carefully on when people engage, they become healthier. How much healthier do they become? What's the effect on their mortality rates? And effectively, what we say, bending mortality down to bring it lower and extending life expectancy. And then finally, at the end, developing products in life, health, motor insurance that pivot on these things. And so the point I'm trying to make is over 25 years, we have about 40 million life years of data that is helping us really navigate this equation and allow us to offer products that meet the needs of our clients in a very different way. Sorry for the mathematical depiction, but I wanted to talk about disruption in one simple case, and it's been very powerful for us, life insurance. Life insurance, to an extent, is not quite broken, but to an extent, I think, has been ripe for disruption. And the reason is this: when you buy life insurance, and you may know this, you fill out an application form on entry. The company typically underwrites you, sends you for a medical, checks out your health at that point in time. And then for the next 30 or 40 years, you pay that rate. But we know actuarially more and more that that risk is in fact 60% dependent on your behavior during the currency of that contract. So the assessment at entry, of course, is important, but how you behave around how you're managing your health is even more important. And so the market kind of is ripe for disruption. What we've managed to do on the left-hand side is codify mortality curves. Understand if people are kind of a blue status all the way to a gold status, what different levels of mortality they would exhibit. And then on the right-hand side, I hope this is fairly clear, but essentially looking at what people pay over time. And what we've managed to do in the life insurance space is effectively charge less than the market, and then depending on how people engage in their wellness, the premium either goes up if they're a blue member over time or goes down if they're a gold member. So effectively disrupting the market through introducing incentives, behavior change, but importantly, lower prices, and if you engage, bringing those prices even further down. And so through that effect, we get a dramatically different actuarial result. We make people healthier, we give them better value for money, and we cut the prices down. To achieve that, of course, requires all of those silos, the technology, wearable devices, Apple Watches, all of that stuff comes into it, but effectively, that is the disruptive force that we create. I will tell you that it's allowed us to be remarkably competitive. In the South African market, we are now, by a fair margin, the largest writer of life insurance. In the UK, off a standing start 7 years ago, our business, Vitality Life, in the UK is the third largest writer in the UK of life insurance business. And then amazingly, what we've managed to do is build partnerships across the world with, I think, national champions in their countries around using the Vitality model in their life insurance construct. So we're in virtually every market with AIA, across Asia Pacific, except China and India. We partner the giant Ping An Group in China, Generali in the UK, in Europe, John Hancock in the US, and Manulife in Canada. And effectively through that had the ability to touch literally, if not tens, hundreds of millions of people through the program. And so to an extent we've created, I believe, a very strong disruptive force in the insurance markets. What is very powerful is if you understand our program, you start at blue and get to gold, all of the factors are positively correlated. So if you look at how people claim, as they engage, those claims go down. Whether it's life insurance, health insurance, motor insurance, how they bank, all of those things are correlated strongly with those factors. At the same level, the same thing with lapsation. People stay with us longer, the longer they engage. And these factors allow us to offer products that are dramatically more powerful and I think better. What we're doing, and I am proud of this as a South African, is building a platform that is globally relevant. So in every aspect of what I showed you before, we're building a central repository where we can really roll this out on a global basis. So the ability to partner corporations like Apple, Starbucks in many markets, we do centrally, and they can make that available across all of the businesses. In terms of the programs, how Vitality works, Vitality for seniors, smoking cessation, all of that stuff we do centrally with the best minds in public health and make that available across the board. The data is being analyzed from all over the world to make sure that we can stratify it and understand it and build it into our products. And then importantly, how that manifests in the actual construct design, the product design, is centralized and made available to all of our partners. And so to an extent, what we're trying to do, what I think we started out doing, is a very simple model that was based on the unique challenges of South Africa, but has found out to be globally relevant and has let us really expand this across many markets in the world. It does lead to what we're trying to do, and I would urge entrepreneurs to do this if you can, is to set stringent goals. And we set goals across our evolution over the last 25 years. We have a goal of 2018 of becoming the best in our space globally. We've defined that as each of our businesses needs to be number one in its market. We've defined that by the science, the data, the brand on one axis, and then importantly, financial indicators, how many people we touch and change, returns on capital, etc. And I believe very strongly through this disruptive force, we can change global insurance, and I think we are, and importantly, build a capacity based out of South Africa that is globally relevant. So I'm very excited about the future. I think the digital revolution is, of course, an enabler in all of this, but I'd urge entrepreneurs to think about disruption that isn't just digital, it may be in areas like we found in the nature of mortality and morbidity risk that is changing, and pursue that. I'd also urge, as I said at the outset, to look for opportunities in difficult times, because that's when people are distracted, they're not investing capital, they're worried about things. These are times now to invest and to build great businesses. And I do believe if you do and you can lead the world. And we're excited about the future, and I wish you only great luck and great success in the rest of the conference. Thank you for listening.